Hey guys, welcome back to LegitStreetCars and welcome to another episode of Project Subaru Outbroke. That is what I'm naming this project after getting my hands dirty and working on this car, but mostly hearing from you guys in the comments section. I've quickly realized that owning this generation Turbo Outback is one of the quickest ways you can go broke. So even after I replace all the parts, and there are a lot of them, you guys are gonna see them in a minute, it seems like this car is just gonna never end. Every year it's gonna need something, and speaking of that, I don't think it's appropriate to donate this particular car to a family in need. So I'll talk about this a little bit more in the next video, the giveaway video. But yeah, I can't give this to a family in need. Anyway, I'm switching this up to giving this car away to a Subaru enthusiast in need. And apparently there are plenty of them to go around. So anyway, more on that in the next video. Not much really changes. For this though, I'm still replacing everything. We still have to make this a very nice car. So with that, let's get to work. All right, so if you guys were around for the last video, then you know what happened to our turbocharger. It is completely destroyed. So we have our new turbo right here and a few other parts that I'm going to replace at the same time, like some belts, the harmonic balancer, and the power steering pump. We also have a few hoses to replace in here, so I did a little bit of cleaning. It looks decent. This is what it used to look like, so not too bad. So a little bit of brake clean and shop air in a rag, and this is where we're at. So right now, before we get the turbo on, I want to tackle the power steering pump and the harmonic balancer. All right, let's get this guy off. Don't drop the 10, don't drop the 10. Got it. All right, next up we got a line here on the side of the pump. All right, this one's got a banjo bolt, and we'll need to get some new washers for this guy here. This is kind of neat. All right, let's make life easier and remove this upper hose since we already drained out all the coolant. There we go. Okay, so we're gonna actually remove this entire bracket here to get this pump out. I think that's the easiest way. So we just had a bolt here and a bolt here, and then the pump and the bracket comes out as one. Then we can take the pump off of the bracket, and we also have to remove, okay, there goes a bolt. We also have to remove this pulley. Okay, with the pump out of the car, you can see these two T40 Torx bolts that need to be removed. Okay, and then we just had a big one in the back that I already loosened up, so we just pull that out. Okay, there we go. And you can totally leave this bracket in the car. You don't have to unbolt this from the engine, but I have a lot of cleaning to do, as you can see in here, so I just want to make it look pretty. And it's only 3 bolts to remove this, so no big deal. All right, we do have to swap this pulley over to the new pump, so let's just hold it like this. Now it comes right off, and that's it. This isn't pressed on or anything, it just has splines, and this can go on any which way. And let's move this bracket over too. All right, so at this point we're done with the old pump. And this just gets installed straight up. You can't mess this up. There's 2 little dowels there to guide you. And back on with the pulley. And I put a little dab of Loctite on this nut as well. And there's our new power steering pump ready to go back on the car after we do some cleaning and replace some other stuff. And before we continue replacing parts on the Subaru, and because I get asked this a lot in the comments section, I use Sonic tools here at the Legit Street Quarters. So my toolbox, my tool cart, and my entire setup is from Sonic, and I love these tools. Their foam storage organization system is second to none. I was always really bad at organizing tools, and with this, literally everything is labeled so you cannot mess it up. And I'll leave a link down below to my full toolbox tour where I go a little bit more in depth into what I have. But it's an absolute pleasure working with these tools. They're very, very high quality. I could go over this stuff forever, guys. It's so much fun. Their pliers are so good. A lot of this stuff is made in Germany. If you haven't tried some Sonic pliers, I definitely recommend them. It's just satisfying to use them. And same thing with their ratchets, super fine tooth. Everything is very high quality, and you can get your tools engraved. LegitStreetCars on every single one of my tools. Now, of course, all their tools carry a lifetime warranty, and you don't have to wait for a tool truck or do really any work other than take a picture of your broken tool, send it to them, and they will mail you a new one within 24 hours. This is kind of the new way of buying high quality tools. And Sonic tools are right up there with all the big names. Trust me, I've tried and owned them all. and I love these tools. So I'm gonna leave you guys a link down below with a coupon code that's gonna get you 10% off their entire website, including toolboxes and everything. So if you guys have bought tools like this before in the past, you know how big of a deal that is. So with that, let's get back to replacing a lot more parts on the Subaru. Oh, and speaking of replacing parts, the guys at 6 Star Motorsports sent over my friend Carlos to give me a hand with the brakes on the Outback. There is so much to do. Honestly, I could use, like 4 more people to get this thing done in time for Christmas. But Carlos is a huge help knocking out these brakes. And he already finished this side, and I'm not messing around here. So we're doing new rotors, calipers, and pads. We'll do a brake flush when he's done. And that way the brakes on the Outback are all set for many years to come. Because we have all this room right now, I'm gonna go ahead and replace that harmonic balancer, and it's getting fresh belts as well. And these don't have spring-loaded tensioners, so we have to loosen up that bolt right there, and then this long bolt right here to release the tension. Okay, so we got that guy, and then we can loosen up this one here. And I sprayed all this stuff down with penetrating oil. Yeah. The little ring here on my Milwaukee Fuel broke off. So I'm dropping tools left and right. I gotta get a new one. Let's loosen this up some more. That ought to do it. There we go. And we have a Mitsubishi belt. I've seen a lot worse, but I'm definitely glad we're replacing this. Okay, so now we have a 22 millimeter. That's gonna go on this crank bolt. All right, so at this point we need to break loose the harmonic balancer bolt. And I'm sure there's a tool that holds the balancer, but I removed this cover from right here, and we can see the flex plate, and that's one of the bolts there, so I just have a screwdriver resting against it. You can see the screwdriver rested against the head of the bolt right there, and now we should be able to break this free. Just like that. This one's not too bad. And we're gonna get the bolt out right now. Once you crack these free, they come right out. Here we are. And now our balancer should slide right off. Might need to do a little shimmy here to get it. There we go. Okay, there we are. And don't worry about messing this up. It is keywayed, so the new one will go back on the same way this came off. Oh, and if you guys didn't catch the reveal video of the Subaru and you're wondering why I'm replacing this, well, this one actually isn't all that bad, but over time this rubber will deteriorate and this can actually separate. So this outer ring that the belt rides on will come apart, and that is not good. So I'm gonna go ahead and preemptively replace this with a brand new balancer so the new owner doesn't run into any issues. And if you're wondering, kind of obvious, but we're replacing the power steering pump because it's leaking really bad. Oh, and if you're wondering, there is no seal to be replaced here. This is just a plastic timing cover, and it's hard for you guys to see, but I can tell that the timing belt has been replaced. It looks really nice, and we have the paperwork for it too. All right, so let's go ahead and install our new balancer. And you might need to spin it around a little bit before you find the keyway. There we go. Okay, with the balancer installed, it's time to reuse the original crank bolt. So this is not a torque to yield bolt. It's not a stretch bolt, so we can reuse it, but per the Subaru instructions, I added some oil here on the threads. So we're not gonna be using Loctite on this one. I've done that in the past on LS stuff and whatnot, but according to Subaru, it's just engine oil, so that's all I've put on the threads. But like every crank bolt, we do need to torque this properly. This one is 132 foot-pounds. So I've done more on other engines. It's not too bad, and we're gonna lock the engine the same way as we did before with our screwdriver right here and the flex plate. So we will turn it until it jams up, snug it up a little. All right, 132 foot-pounds should be a piece of cake, almost. There we go. All right, new balancer is done. And this is where I had the screwdriver placed. It was just resting against the block, and then we just kind of jam it up against this bolt. I've done this a bunch of times on many different engines, no issues, but there is a tool if you want to do this more properly that locks the flex plate in place. But if you use a good quality screwdriver or pry bar, it is not proper tool usage, but it works. And we'll just pop our cover back on, and we're done. And we got a brand new belt going on as well. So I'll just slide this guy right over, and now we have to adjust this mechanically. There is no spring tensioner on this vehicle. And all we're doing is turning this long bolt, and that is pushing this pulley down to give this more tension. So right now it's really loose. We have quite a ways to go. And you'll probably have to check this a few times. This is still really loose. And right about there, this is where I like it. So you got to kind of get the feel for this after a while. But this belt shouldn't make any noise, and it's not too tight to where it's going to start wearing out bearings on the accessories like this AC compressor. All right, then we're just going to tighten up this center bolt here for the pulley, just like that. And this job is done. New balancer, new belt. Almost forgot, we have to swap over this sensor to the new power steering pump. I don't have a little O-ring for that, but luckily I have this master O-ring kit. These can be a big lifesaver. I'll leave a link for you down below. I've had this for a few years. Don't need to use it very often, but it comes in handy. When you have a seal like this, that's most likely dealer only. It's hard to tell here, but this is pretty flattened. It might seal, but this new one is gonna work much, much better. And now we know our new power steering pump isn't gonna have any issues, especially with a leak from the back of it. That wouldn't be fun. All right, so we'll go ahead and thread our sensor into the new pump, and we're just gonna tighten this guy up by hand. This is not gonna require a lot of torque. Snug is good. All right, this guy is officially ready to go back on the car. All right, guys, I wanna show you a really good example of an issue you guys can run into, and I removed the power steering pump pulley just to give you a better look. But if you see, this bracket has a bushing right here, and when we try to go and slide in the power steering pump, it's not happening. This is in the way. This needs to be pushed out this way in order for this pump to sit down in here. And then when we tighten up the bolt, it'll push this bushing up against the pump and secure it tightly. So how do we get this to move out? You got to get a little creative. So this is an exhaust bolt. We're going to slide it in this way, and the head of this bolt fits over this bushing. Then we need something on this end that's larger than the bushing, so a socket, or in this case, a wrench, fits right over. Then you need some kind of washer, which I don't have one large enough, so we're gonna use this broken off exhaust hanger, and then we're just gonna use the nut from the exhaust system that fits over this bolt, and we're gonna snug that down. And this will make a little bit more sense now, but we're gonna be tightening this bolt, and then this bolt is gonna push this bushing out. And since this is larger than the bushing, it's going to fit inside of the end of our wrench here. And we needed the washer so it would actually tighten and the nut just wouldn't go inside of the wrench itself. All right, so we're holding this end with the wrench. We're gonna tighten up the other end. And you can see the bushing has now gone in. We'll go a little bit more. Should be good. All right, let's take this little contraption off now. And here's what the bushing looks like now. And just like that, our pump slides right in. Bolt holes line up great. There we go. So we'll go ahead and just install all these bolts before putting the pulley on. It doesn't really matter if you do that before or after. There's plenty of room to get to the two. But yeah, just a little trick there if you guys run into a bushing like this and you need to push it out and you don't have a special tool, you can use practically anything, including a wrench and a rusted piece of exhaust bracket. So you might think that this looks like garbage, and it does, and I'm gonna go throw it out. But we got one last use out of it as a washer. So rusted exhaust bracket, I thank you. All right, so the brakes are done. We've done the calipers, pads, and rotors all the way around. So that was a big help having SickStart knock out the brakes while I work on a lot of other things. And speaking of a lot of things, look at the amount of parts we have for the Subaru. So I've made quite the mess opening up all of these boxes. But of course, all of the parts came from RockAuto.com. And if you guys haven't been on their website, I highly recommend it. It's very basic, easy to use, no pop-ups, no games, and the best prices out there. This turbocharger started at $6.99 from all the local auto parts stores, and it was only $4.83 with RockAuto.com. So I'm gonna drop a link down below. Next time you need anything for your car, definitely give them a try. You're probably gonna save a lot of money. Also, I mentioned to RockAuto that I was giving this car away to someone in need, and they stepped up, they wanted to get involved, and they donated all of these parts to the project. This is the second time they've done this for one of my giveaway cars. So I just want to say a big thanks to RockAuto for supporting the giveaway cars. So check them out, link down below. Let's get back to fixing this Subaru. Okay, so we're just gonna go ahead and tighten up this large bolt in the back. And you can see it's gonna draw the bushing in now. Tighten these guys up too. All right, now we'll go ahead and install this pulley. Really no reason to do that until the very last step. And we'll do a little bit of blue Loctite on this nut and crank her down. All right, so the pump and bracket are ready to go on, and the only reason I took the bracket off the engine was to clean up in here. This had a puddle of oil, all these little crevices in here were dirty, so I've used some brake clean and shop air, cleaned those out, cleaned up the cover, cleaned all of this, and now we're ready for this guy. All right, so here's our power steering pump and bracket going back on the engine. All right, and done. Cool. Oh, and on this power steering pump, I replaced the washers that go right there and the seal that goes right there. So this job is complete, and we are moving on to replacing the turbo. But before we do that, we have to replace brittle hoses like this one. So this is the oil return for the turbo. It's rock hard. And I actually have an updated oil drain hose from the guys at 6 Star Motorsports. And we're going to be using traditional style hose clamps, which should make this much easier to install also. All right, so there is our new oil return hose installed. It's tightened up on the bottom, and we have the second hose clamp installed. So we're almost ready to install the turbo. But first we have to swap over the oil drain tube. So I removed this from the old turbo. We have a new seal, and this is the bottom of the turbo. And we'll go ahead and install our 210 mils. Snug these guys up. Don't have to go too crazy. These are very small bolts, don't want to snap them. All right, now the turbo is ready to be installed. And if you guys were around for the last video, you know that I removed the screen from the oil feed banjo bolt. So this used to slide inside of here, and we are getting rid of it. And we want to replace all the washers and gaskets on pretty much everything we're touching here. So this is getting a couple of new ones. So here it is going in without the screen that can clog up and starve our turbo of oil. And it's a 17 millimeter, snug it up real nice. Okay, that's good. And we got a new flange gasket with the turbo. So let's get this out of here. And sometimes people forget and they double these up because if you just look at it, it kind of blends in. And I've seen that before. I've seen 2 gaskets and they leak in between themselves. So make sure that you remove your old gasket. Most of the time it stays here with the flange. All right, and here's the new shiny gasket that comes with the turbocharger. There we go. With the turbocharger ready to go, I'm going to replace these PCV hoses. I found it as an assembly, and if you remember the last video, this is rock hard. It's supposed to be like this, and it was leaking oil from here. And the rest of these are probably going to break as well, so we're just going to go ahead and replace this guy with our factory fresh piece. And this is just slightly easier to do with the turbo out of the way. So if I remember correctly, this went here, and then we just push this hose down right onto the block. There we go. Clamp is back. So in a lot of cases, you can reuse these factory clamps, and all it takes is a pair of side cutters to close them up properly. So with that, we have our new oil drain tube. We have our coolant line ran properly. We have our banjo bolt screen removed. And don't forget to put this little bracket back. You have to remove that to get to that banjo bolt. We have our new gasket. I've also inspected to make sure that nothing went down into the exhaust there, and we're ready. We're ready for this, our brand spanking new, super shiny turbocharger. So this should go down without much fuss, I think. It is a Subaru after all, so I'm sure something will probably break here. You just gotta have a little faith. Get out of my way, coolant line. Oh, okay. All right, let's try that again. Coolant line was getting in the way. Are we down? Are we down? Make sure to line up the oil drain tube. All right, and then it just pushes down. We should be good. This is free. All right, cool, turbo's in. Let's get some hardware. Turbo's in. All right, make these 3 bolts nice and snug. This guy is installed. It's time to pre-lubricate the turbocharger. So they give you a syringe full of engine oil to squirt into the top, just like so. A little too much. They give you more than you need, so try not to make a mess like I just did. Then we'll install 2 new washers here on the oil feed banjo bolt. Oh, great. Where did that go? No, where did that go? I dropped one of the little copper washers there. Where are you? All right, guys, I dropped one of the copper O-ring crush sleeve washer thingies somewhere into the Bermuda Triangle of Subaru death here in this mess somewhere. I was working over there, and it's got to be over there, but it's not. I can't find it. Of course, the dealer doesn't have any of these in stock, so I'm going to run down the street, see what they have, But this is how some of these projects can go. You're moving along, you're replacing parts, and then you lose something, and it sets you back potentially a day or two. This is the most annoying part about working on cars. But I guess we're not doing too bad. We have all the brakes completed. We have our new turbocharger installed, power steering pump, harmonic balancer, a belt. We got one of the PCV hoses done there. We still have to do another one right here, which I'll do in the next video, along with our little Office Depot notepad of parts that we need to replace, which started at 15. Yep, I think it was at 15, and we're at 24. So anyway, list keeps on growing. There is a ton of work to still do to this Subaru to get it ready for the giveaway. At this point, if I'm to meet my Christmas deadline, I might be giving him a partially broken car and then having to finish the rest later. I don't know. I got to roll with the punches. I wasn't expecting all of this, but I'm glad that it's working out the way that it is, and that I'm not going to be giving it away to a family in need, because I'd basically be handing them a massive bill. And I have all of you Subaru guys out there to thank for the suggestion. There were diehard Subaru guys in the comments. They won't buy anything but Subaru, but they're telling me this, not a good idea. Even guys with turbo Outbacks, and you know it's bad when the fanboys are telling you that they're unreliable and they're gonna break all the time, and that stack of receipts is just gonna grow and grow and grow. So anyway, with that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you join us for the next installment of Project Subaru Outbroke. Give this video a thumbs up if you haven't already. Share the video with your friends. Subscribe if you're new. Follow me on social media. I'm everywhere at LegitStreetCars. And most importantly, have an awesome day. I'll catch all of you in the next video.